Yes, rags to riches stories still do happen in today's society. Work hard does pay off. Tenacity, faith, the pursuit of happiness is not futile. The pursuit of happiness is not meaningless.
Make sure you listen to the Freedom Fighter Radio on Ordinary Show.
I'm on Freedom Fighter Radio on the Ordinary Joe Show. That's quite a mouthful.
Yes. Hey guys, this is Chris Sky. Listen to Freedom Fighter Radio. They're here today, back in the blue, and so am I.
I'm Pastor Arthur from Calgary. You are listening to the Freedom Fighter Radio Worldwide podcast, only here on the Ordinary Joe Show.
Hello, friends. I am Derek Sloan, the leader of the Ontario Party. You are listening to the Freedom Fighter Radio Canada podcast, only here on the Ordinary Joe Show.
Poverty is a fabrication of social construct. God did not create the world. God did not create the earth with him in his mind as part of the design that some people will be rich and some people will be poor. He didn't create the world, the universe, and all of creation to create that concept of poor versus rich. I totally believe that God created the world and humanity, and part of his plan was that everybody will be provided for. So I believe that we should not be glamorizing poverty or child abuse in movies. I've talked about how I believe mental illness can be exported or imported into your body, into your mind, by the things that you read, the things that you watch, the things that you listen to, and the stories that you listen to. The kind of when people are gossiping and passing stories with each other, if there is a mentally ill story or gossip that people are consuming, even if it's by word of mouth, I believe that it is a way of a transmission, like a viral infection. It is a way to virally infect people with mental illness. So there are so many things in our digital consumption of movies and television and podcast and books and radio shows. There are so many things that I believe is infected material that creates mental illness in society or mass formation. Mass formation is simply, in my opinion, a mental illness that has gone viral. That is mass formation, in my opinion. Again, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I am simply offering my opinion on observable observable phenomenon in our society. So JD Vance grew up very poor in Middleton, Ohio, but he is a success story of someone who worked hard and got himself through college by signing up with the military. The military helped him somewhat, but he was still indebted with student loans after law university, and he wrote a book that helped him finally put a nail in the coffin of poverty, because the book ended up being a bestseller. So yes, rags to riches stories still do happen in today's society. Work hard does pay off, and tenacity, faith, and the pursuit of happiness is not futile. The pursuit of happiness is not meaningless. I believe that it is a God-given desire, and we should therefore do exactly follow that motivation of pursuing happiness. And that is supposed to be one of the American promises, is the promise of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I would like to say that as much as I believe that there are high level of accuracy in the depiction of the story of J.D. Vance about his childhood, his family, his rags to riches elegy, based on the book that he wrote, Hillbilly Elegy. I believe that it is not a guarantee that he is, number one, an infallible good person. He is a good person. I would say that from my initial, right now, as far as I already gathered some information about J.D. Vance, so I can conclude that he is a good person. He's not a perfect person, and he's not infallible to fall away from the goodness. Especially that we learn that he grew up under abusive authority and parents. Although there were a rehabilitation, there were repentance from that kind of lifestyle, and I don't blame. People who are abusive, if you dig deeper, how did they become the abusive parent or the abusive adult that they became towards little children or even teens? It was because they were abused themselves when they were children. So it is quite a cycle of curse. And so I'm not saying this to malign or to undercut the value of how J.D. Vance family, his story has progressed to something beautiful. It doesn't mean he is totally out of the woods. He can become. It's a cycle of curse, and we know that. So J.D. Vance can become an abusive parent himself. He can be an abusive dad. It is a curse that needs to be broken from a spiritual warfare point of view, not just a psychological, economic, or civil kind of reformation. This is a spiritual thing. So I believe that we have to keep that in mind. Keep that in mind.
For the best price in town on your flooring, call Complete Flooring. The unique shop-at-home experience means samples are brought right to your door, and because we don't pay salesmen, there's no markup on our products. Complete Flooring does the installation of new hardwood floors and sands them using a dustless machine, making the sanding process cleaner. We also specialize in refinishing, staining, and custom staining of existing hardwood floors. Our Green Guard certified environmentally friendly finish is now available. Drying in a quarter of the time of regular stains means you can get back in your house sooner, and it will last longer. If you're a homeowner, general contractor, or a building or property manager, Complete Flooring services are available to you. So give us a call today.
Imagine that the power grid was totally wiped by an EMP weapon of an enemy state. Your stress level will go to the roof, your patience will be tried, you will have to think about both your own and your complaining children's survival. If you don't survive, your children won't when they are left on their own. Teach your children how to have the mentality of being survivors through a fun, children-friendly guided outdoor adventures with basic survivor mindfulness integrated in the fun outing activity. Call my friends Ernell and Victoria who are experienced survivors. Call them at 905-252-8009 or email them at northernpacificcottages@gmail.com.
So it is quite a cycle of curse. And so I'm not saying this to malign or to undercut the value of how J.D. Vance family, his story has progressed to something beautiful. It doesn't mean he is totally out of the woods. He can become, it's a cycle of course, and we know that. So J.D. Vance can become an abusive parent himself. He can be an abusive dad. It is a curse that needs to be broken from a spiritual warfare point of view, not just a psychological, economic, or civil kind of reformation. This is a spiritual thing. So I believe that we have to keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, because this is me and my daughter. We share a bonding. Recently, we've been sharing a bonding moment following some K-pop movies. It started with a story of a young female lawyer. The title of the series is Extraordinary Attorney Woo.
제 이름은 똑바로 읽어도 거꾸로 읽어도 우영우입니다. 기러기 토마토 스위스 인도인 별똥별 우영우. 역삼요?
되게 재밌어요.
이 아가씨가 변호사예요?
우영우 정체가 뭡니까? 바보인 척하면서 우리 놀리는 거 아니야?
우영우 변호사, 건방지게 누가 누굴 가르치려고 드는 거야 지금?
야, 변호사는 그것만 잘하면 돼. 이 있습니다!
이 있습니다.
글쎄 눈에. 이런 인재를 한 바다가 안 데려오면 누가 데려옵니까?
나는 변호사님이랑 같은 편 하고 싶어요. 변호사님 같은 변호사가 내 편을 들어주면 좋겠어요.
이 있습니다.
About maybe 4 or 5 seasons that we watched together, and we're actually doing a rerun together. So we have been sharing a bonding moment with that, and I'm actually happy that I used to follow a lot of Korean teleseries back in 2002, 2003, just after the 9/11 years. The early 2000s, which is a couple of years after the 9/11 incident, because at that time there were many international students at our church that we went to, a local church we went to, and I became one of the leaders for the university students, and there were Singaporeans, Koreans, Japanese, Australians, international students that were in the purview of the student group that I was leading. And so therefore there were many Koreans, and the Koreans that were in our group in those years, 2001, 2002, 2003, that introduced us to many of the what they called in Korea a Hallyu program, or a government funded campaign that they had internationally to push Korean pop culture, package it and export it to the rest of the world, especially North American and Western societies. So I got introduced to K-pop movies and music back in 2003, and then we dropped that for many years, and a couple decades later, when our little daughter now became preteen, she became a follower of K-pop herself, and now we got reintroduced to, and now it's the Netflix era where you can follow many of the current. Back in the day, we have to rent movies by. I think we did follow some movies online as well, but you have to go to a Korean site back in those days. Anyways, folks, don't go away. We'll be right back.
consider supporting the OJTV production costs and be an insider member for only $3 a month. Go to patreon.com/OJTV Canada. Thank you for your continued support.
For the best price in town on your flooring, call Complete Flooring. The unique shop-at-home experience means samples are brought right to your door, and because we don't pay salesmen, there's no markup on our products. Complete Flooring does the installation of new hardwood floors and sands them using a dustless machine, making the sanding process cleaner. We also specialize in refinishing, staining, and custom staining of existing hardwood floors. Our Green Guard certified environmentally friendly finish is now available. Drying in a quarter of the time of regular stains means you can get back in your house sooner, and it will last longer. If you're a homeowner, general contractor, or a building or property manager, Complete Flooring services are available to you. So give us a call today.
So you might be wondering, how did our conversation been spun towards talking about K-pop and Korean movies? And folks, you will be surprised how many North American kids, native North American, native Canadian, native Americans, Caucasians, blacks, those who were born here in North America, are now tuning in and following a lot of Korean drama, movies, series, and soap operas that are Korean, and they're reading the subtitles. Just in my daughter's school alone, a lot of her friends, the school that she goes to is mostly Caucasian school. In our neighborhood, there's only two other Filipino, three altogether Filipinos. There's a number of Indians, very few blacks, but 99% of the student body are Caucasian Canadians in Midtown Toronto. And you will be surprised how many of these young girls in this school are actually tuning into K-pop. K-pop movies and K-pop music, pop music. So the reason I brought that up, there's a few things, because I just watched J.D. Vance's memoir book that was turned into a Hollywood film titled Hillbilly Elegy. And I thought that was a very moving movie, very moving, very emotional. And honestly, when I was watching it, I appreciated it so much that I thought that is the kind of reality based on true to life stories depicted in Hollywood movies that we are missing now. A lot of the movies I thought that we see in Hollywood are fantastical, futuristic, super inflated egos and characters and superpowers and personalities and futurism. But we have forgotten to tell some of important stories of rural America, rural Canada, and the actual daily lives of ordinary Jane and Joe Americans and Canadians. When I was watching a few Korean TV series with my daughter, I noticed that there's a lot of emotionally moving movies from Korea. That's why it's becoming one of the mainstream in America now, because it's filling a void in that part of the human psyche where we look for, we're trying to find ourselves in the narratives of human relationships. And that is missing, I guess. And that's the reason that many Korean series, TV series, and movies are filling that void. Well, when I watch Hillbilly Elegy, J.D. Vance's memoir about his childhood, growing up in poverty and child abuse and struggling for finances and whatnot, it reminded me so much of the very human focused, relationship focused movies that me and my daughter share in bonding time with watching Korean movies. One thing is very common. The other series I showed you there before, the trailer of the very first series that me and my daughter shared together, titled the title of the series is The Extraordinary Attorney Woo. It was a story about a genius lawyer who is autistic actually, but very very skillful lawyer, because of her autism gave her super ability in memory and reading tons of law books, and so she became top of her class. And that, well, it's a fictitious narrative, but that was the narrative of the story. And the actress there, the main protagonist, Extraordinary Woo, her name is Park Hyun Bin, and we ended up following a lot of her work. Me and my daughter, we became big fans of Park Hyun Bin, the main actress that portrayed the autistic lawyer, and which led us to another series that she made very recently. I think one of the last ones that she made, it was titled Castaway Diva, where she got stuck in an island and she was found after 15 years, and she got reintroduced to civilized society, and she missed out on some of the development of technology. So first time she was discovering what a smartphone is and the internet and blah blah. Anyways, the preset of the entire story was based in an island in rural Korea. And I didn't know this about Korean old movies. And even, like I said, I was just very recently reintroduced to following Korean TV series because my daughter's into it, and that was just a good bonding moment with us, for the two of us to share together. And sometimes our mom would join us too. There are so many things I forgot about Korean movies, but and one thing that I didn't know, that I just recently discovered, that about Korean movies, Asian movies in general, but very strong in Korean movies, is the depiction of, because it's a real problem in Korea, they said, the depiction of child abuse in rural homes, where children are violently abused by their own parents, because they're in some rural Korean islands where poverty sometimes is a problem. Then addiction to alcohol is also a problem. And when some of the single parents, depicted in another series where Park Hyun Bin was featured, another series named Castaway Diva, the pretext of the entire movie was based on child abuse, depiction of child abuse, which was a depiction based from reality in many rural Korean families, where children are violently physically abused because of parents that are addicted to alcohol. and stress, and poverty. But that's the reason I brought this up, because Hillbilly Elegy is very similar to some of the Korean miniseries that me and my daughter follow. Because Hillbilly Elegy, the memoir, childhood story of J.D. Vance, President Trump's running mate, his vice presidential pick to run with him for the 2024 election coming up in November. Hillbilly Elegy, his memoir, is based on a true story that depicts him growing up in rural Ohio. I believe it's called Middleton, Ohio, if I can remember right. And he was growing up in poor family, in a poor family community, and a mother who was abusing narcotics. So she was addicted to heroin and other drugs, and that got her to be it became her coping mechanism with all the hardships that she's going through. And inadvertently, unintentionally, sometimes she becomes violent towards her children. She doesn't want to, but she gets cornered to a high pressure moment. She didn't know how to respond to her situation. She acts out. She gets addicted to drugs, and then she acts out, and she ends up being violent. And J.D. Vance experienced many physical violent abuse from his mother growing up. And as much as I know that this is reality in our society worldwide, not only in poor countries, but also here in North America, in Canada, in the United States, this is part of human story, but very rarely this is being told in many feature movies. Having said that, I still stand by what I thought, that we should avoid depicting too much. As real as these are, after we address the issue and expose the reality, I don't think we should go further and glamorize and part of the drama make it like a life narrative for many members of our society. That we have to keep that in mind.